She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today.
Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about how we interact with the world, how we interact with our friends and our loved ones. Do we have to turn ourselves on to be in public? Are we comfortable being out in public, talking to people? What's the spiritual aspects behind that? And how we live our lives without being exhausted.
Yep. Good intro.
What brought this up was this past weekend, I had a wonderful day laid out. I went horseback riding. I went to a horse rescue open house. I met a friend that I only knew online I had lunch with her for a few hours. And then I had another person come over for dinner and that person was stayed till dark, and I was on all day and I didn't really notice it. And I was exhausted at the end of the day. The next day I slept all day. So, and then that really brought up this conversation, the conversation starter of so why was I exhausted when I was looking forward to it? And I think that's pretty typical for people. As we were, the Lemonettes were discussing it, Drusilla even had a story about it being introverted or extroverted. So
go
ahead,
I was just going to say, as you were, even just now, as you were talking about it, it came up as a question for me. Does it mean that you're being inauthentic? And is that why it's draining? I don't know. We'll see by the end of this conversation, maybe. The thought for me. But no, I totally just had that conversation with a friend of mine that I've known since I was 9 or 10 years old. And I was just telling her that I'm an introvert and that it takes all of every fiber of my being just to be out socially and engaging with people, for long periods of time. And she was just totally shocked. Even though she's known me all my life, she thought that was just who I am and how I am. And she totally thought I was extroverted. So I must be really good at this thing that I do.
You have to be, because I would have never thought you were an introvert, Drusilla.
Oh my God, probably to the nth degree. It's like, but I have intentionally chosen paths that take me out of my comfort zone. It's been intentional, 100%.
Wow, that's so fascinating because, you've talked previously in other episodes about being a human resources professional. That I think is somebody that needs to be an extrovert. And all the other things that you've talked about that you've done in your life, they do all point to extroversion. Is that a word?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm following you. So.
And I don't think that's unusual, because I have heard of people who have a speaking impairment becoming a speaker.
True.
And things like that. So I think it is pretty common. So I used to be terribly afraid of raising my hand in class, answering any questions. So there just came a point that I just said, I'm going to have to, do better. I'm just going to have to wing it so that I can be, if I wanted to be a cheerleader, because I'm looking around and I thought it was the cutest thing ever. And I just decided that I was just going to have to break out of the shell and just do it, you know? And then I think that that was probably the biggest thing that I did that was out of the box was probably cheerleading. And then that just spun into doing all sorts of things like running for student body um, president, not of the whole school, right? Of the class, and things like that. So it just stemmed from being afraid of being left out and yeah, not being able to have fun in life. I thought it was fun when I saw people able to do all of that stuff and not be afraid.
Do
Can
you
you tell?
remember?
Oh, sorry, Penny, go
I
ahead.
was just going to ask, do you remember when you made that decision, like how old you were? And do you remember the first thing, like how old were you when you became a cheerleader or ran for student body president?
The first time I was a cheerleader, I think I was 11.
Wow, that's young.
I was 11.
You were
And the
already so
same
self-aware.
the same friend that thought I was extroverted, she was a cheerleader when I met her. When she first came to my elementary school, the very first year, that was her thing. And so I'm probably like looking at her like, oh my gosh, she's like the best thing. She's the coolest person. And yeah, so a couple of years later, I decided to try out for cheerleading.
Wow.
And yeah, and she ended up being the head cheerleader from probably like from middle school all the way through high school when we graduated. And if you met her now, she's just so reserved. She's like totally the opposite,
Hmm.
totally. And so that's why this was a very interesting conversation between us. And I'm like, well, um, and she doesn't say that she is introverted. She definitely was extroverted during school, very confident, spoke her mind in class. Um, but now she said, um, the whole reason this conversation came up was that she felt like she, in the last 10, 15 years, has been playing small, which we know is a big thing in Jennifer's ministry, is that, and that was one of the first classes I took in Jennifer's ministry as well. Because I knew that a little bit of what I had, my ambition from such an early age, that I was losing a little bit of that. And I could feel it. I was losing my voice. And so that's what the conversation came up between me and my friend Monique.
So that class you're talking about is Stop Playing Small.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, yeah, just wanted to clarify that for people that weren't familiar with Jennifer's work.
And that's jenniferhadley.com if you want to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were going to say something, Melissa, and I interrupted you.
I was just going to ask Drusilla, so what do you do? Like, what's your routine when you're an introvert? Like, what's your daily, like, what do you do?
It kind of depends. I typically, let's just say, when I have a schedule that has to involve other people and interacting with them a lot, what I will do is I'll minimize how many times per day I will schedule a meeting.
Mm.
And then that way it gives me time to reset. And so I don't feel exhausted every day, right? I would do that even as a recruiter and or as a trainer. I also was a trainer in human resources, which is way off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it just takes just being strategic about how you schedule things. I wouldn't schedule more than a couple of interviews. Like I would block out the morning maybe, and then stack 3 or 4 interviews in the day, and then end my day with nothing on my calendar.
And what is your reset? What is that?
Reset could mean just anything as long as it didn't involve conversating with another person. I could still send emails, respond to emails. I love projects because, especially projects that just require me to sit there and do my own thing. Very good at that. Um, so anything like that allows me to kind of recharge, especially if I'm being creative with it. Being creative recharges me
Mm,
instantly.
cool.
So
So
doing
interesting.
stuff.
Yeah.
Someone said authenticity. So it sounds like that, Drusilla, you are showing up authentically, even when you were pushing yourself to be an extrovert. So that's super interesting. Penny, I think you asked a question about authenticity. So could you define that, kind of what you mean by that, so we can get to the heart of, like, for me personally, was I not being authentic? Is that what exhausted me? Just a little bit more clarity on that. If you were the one that asked that question or
It
posed it, I don't remember.
wasn't me, but I think
Oh,
was it you, Melissa? I can
No, I mentioned it.
oh, Drusilla then. Sorry, Penny. Sorry, Penny.
Hey, I'm willing to play.
We
That's
love
why I
it.
love you guys. Mm-hmm.
Well, it came to my mind when you were doing the introduction, and not that that's the first time it came to my mind, of course,
Right.
but it does seem to be there. There has to be a line that you're crossing, right? When you're being kind of out of your element, you're stretching yourself to be in other people's environment. um, I feel like I don't necessarily feel like it has to be inauthentic to do that, but there's probably a line that you cross
Mm,
in certain situations, um, that you are being inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
mm,
sure I could probably come up with an example. I would definitely say this. Um, Being a trainer for an introverted person, that's way out there, right? So when I was training, I would be, it would be the equivalent of saying I was an actress,
mm,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was totally somebody else. Totally, yeah. So, I mean, could you say that I was authentically somebody else? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I was intentionally being a trainer.
mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, I still think that there's, yeah, a little bit of both. I think people can go in and out of just being themselves and still stretching, pushing the limits a little.
Well, and we also
Um,
play different roles in our life.
yeah.
And so your role at that time was a trainer, and a trainer
Mhm.
has these characteristics, and you played that role.
Mhm.
Yeah. Just as you were talking about that, inauthentic and authentic, I remember one of my cousins, we were all in Arizona celebrating my sister's 60th birthday, and they just decided to open their house to us, and they had this beautiful spread of food and everything. And I just remember that I know that both my cousin and his wife are very much introverts. And so I wonder, like, were they people pleasing, or did they really want to do it? Like, did they feel obligated to do it because we were all in town from other states, or did they really want to do it? And so
Mhm.
that flashed into my mind while you were talking about authentic or inauthentic, and I know it was a big stretch for them, but it was beautiful. They did a great job. And I just wonder if people pleasing can come in sometimes with introverts when they feel like they have to people please to fit in, or peer pressure. Like they feel pressure to, but it doesn't sound like you felt any pressure from peers. You just wanted to live your life fully.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that,
And two, my friend, the same friend Monique, brought up the same thing that you just said, Penny. Actually, she said, "Oh, and even now I see you hosting all these parties, and I have all these people at your your birthday parties and all of this stuff. And it's not a stretch for me. I like I like one-on-one. I love intimate conversations with people. Um, I love getting to know people. I'd rather it be one-on-one. I don't so much like big conversations with groups of people like that. So much as I do maybe going around one-on-one and having one-off conversations. But I am truly, truly exhausted anytime I do any of it when it's done.
Hmm. Yeah, my motto, and I think I'm probably more of an extrovert, is the more the merrier. That's really always been my motto. So, yeah, let's bring it on. Let's have anybody can come. I'm very inclusive, you know.
So my question for extroverts is always this. So do you feel energized by having the people around? Is that what it feels like? Like it charges you, it gives you a rush?
Yeah, I think it does. Melissa, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Introvert.
Introvert too. Oh my God, I'm surrounded by introverts. That's amazing. Um, I think it is probably a lot of I just like to have fun. And it's
Mhm.
probably is I'm getting energy from the people there, and you know, I do like to please people by providing fun environments, you know? I mean, I do like to provide that. I don't feel like I'm people pleasing. It's just like I like to provide that. Come on over, let's have some fun, you know. Um, yeah, we used to do parties where we'd all cook together. So there'd be like 10 couples and we'd cook the whole meal from beginning to end together. And that was really fun. And a lot of work, but a lot of fun. Don't do that much anymore. I think maybe as I'm getting older, it's like, okay, let's just grill some veggies. you know, none of these big parties much anymore.
Yeah,
So
I don't know
Melissa,
if I am. I say I don't know if I'm an introvert or an extrovert or a combination. I've never really thought about it that much. I think it's
I
kind of
wonder if
evolved.
there's a test if you can figure it out. Let
I'm
me
sure
Google
that there
that.
is
it
a
was
test.
the way it's been presented to me to kind of understand, not that I didn't always know that that's what I was, but
Mhm.
one way it's described is if you're an introvert, that means that people around you are zapping energy away from you. And when you're an introvert, that's why I asked Penny the question. So to be an
Mm-hmm.
extrovert means that you are drawing energy from other people. And so that charges you versus for me, it zaps my energy and I have to go be by myself to recharge. I recharge alone.
Okay, that's exactly what I just asked ChatGPT about that.
Mhm.
And that very first question is, do you feel energized or drained after social interactions? Do you prefer deep one-on-one conversations or larger group activities?
Mm-hmm.
Do you recharge by being alone or by being around others? And so the signs: you may be an introvert. You feel drained after social gatherings, even if you enjoy them. You prefer meaningful one-on-one conversations over small talk. You often need alone time to recharge after interacting with people. You're reflective and enjoy spending time on introspective activities like reading or writing. You feel more focused in quieter environments with less external stimulation. And signs: you may be an extrovert. You feel energized by social gatherings and seek out social interaction. You enjoy being the center of attention or engaging in group activities. You thrive in stimulating environments and tend to talk things through to process your thoughts. I'm an auditory processor. You're more likely to feel loved, or excuse me, more likely to feel bored or restless when spending too much time alone. You enjoy meeting new people and finding networking. You can find networking energizing rather than draining. So there we go.
Hmm. Yeah, according to that, I have some extroverted tendencies, but I'm an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
That makes any sense. That's
It
how
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, I was, according to that description, a lot more extroverted. Yeah. So interesting.
So, Melissa, so you said you're an introvert. Have you
Yeah.
found that to be consistent for you? Like, if you look through growing up and to now, is it consistent? Have you
Yeah.
been consistent?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah, it's definitely consistent. I definitely have what Amanda has, some tendencies to be extroverted. And um it's funny that we're talking about this because I was really kind of getting down on myself this weekend because I needed a lot of recharging. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, am I starting to isolate? Am I like I really was getting in my own head about it. And I just love what everyone has said and the what the descriptions are because I really need a lot of um recharging. And that's why I asked you what you did because I was like, I just wanted to see how it compared to what I do because sometimes I think of it as isolating rather than recharging. And then I get upset with myself. Um, but I do need a lot of downtime and a lot of introspection, a lot of quiet. Like if
Mhm.
I'm laying in bed and it's quiet, I don't put the TV on and stuff, but my husband comes in and the dog and the cat come in, the kids walk around. I get so irritated because I'm already like turned down.
Yeah.
And so anyways, yeah, it's just good to know that um I'm normal.
Mhm.
Well, and I just scrolled a little further down. You might be an ambivert,
What
which
is
is
that?
an ambivert mean they have a balance of both introvert and extrovert. If you find that you can relate to both sets of behaviors, depending on the situation, you might fall somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And
I
Is you, Amanda?
That's
yeah,
me. Mhm.
yes. I've had so many people at my house over the last month, like 5 people visiting at a time, 4 people visiting
Mhm.
at a time. And we go and we do things. And I'm also the person who I like to have my house really clean when they come. And I like to cook people breakfast, even though I'm not a cook. I like to have a lot of hostessing things. Um, and I really like that. I don't know if it's people pleasing as much as caretaking, if
oh,
that's okay, right? And but it feels good when I do it, but it is exhausting,
Mhm.
really exhausting. So I feel like I get worn out faster since I'm, getting older. I'm
mhm.
wearing out a little easier. Um, but usually if I can recharge for a day or two, and lay in bed and watch TV and make that okay, um,
Mhm.
then I recharge pretty quickly. And I don't think I can do it again right away, but it's good to know. It was really good to hear that some of the things other people do to recharge. Um, and everything's okay, I think. Even
Yeah.
the extroverting tendencies.
Mhm. Yeah, it's okay, Peony, that you zap everybody's energy.
I don't zap anybody's energy, Drusilla.
Never.
I think I actually give more energy than I take. Actually. And that's
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
with extroverts, it just goes
Mhm.
both
Yeah.
ways, and
Yeah.
it's not that somebody's taking from introverts, is that we're giving it out, we're
Yeah.
putting it out there, you know. Um,
Well,
but
and
yeah, I like to hear.
I've had to learn
I,
to protect my energy. Like,
yes,
you put up that hedge of protection so that I don't take on the energy I don't want and I can deflect back the energy to the people as they're trying to give it to me. Yeah.
How do you
yeah,
recharge, Penny?
that's what I was going to say.
Oh,
Yes.
gosh. So usually I lay in bed and watch TV for 6 hours. When I get really tired, my husband goes, "Oh my God, Penny, you must be really tired. You're laying in bed watching TV." Yeah. Um, Yeah. And so I try not to get myself to that point. I try to pace myself a little bit more. I've learned, we're all learning. That's one of the things that I'm learning is I have to pace myself because I used to be running, a sprint full on all day long for many, many years. And now it's like, it's a marathon, Penny. Pace yourself. But yeah, so I just have to disconnect from everything. I don't look at email. I don't even care to look at email. I don't even look at my phone. I'll just put it down someplace and walk away from it and just turn on the TV. And usually I'm sleeping and awake and sleeping and awake, kind of like what you probably had on Sunday, Amanda, where you were in bed most of the day. That's kind of what I do too.
Yeah.
So what does it take though, Penny, for you to get exhausted by being social?
Well, I'm just going to think back to my daughter's wedding party that we had in June. So we had some relatives come in from out of town, and I think they came on Thursday. The wedding was on Saturday. So Thursday night we hosted 20 people at our house, and I had help, but we cooked everything on our grill, and I made a cake. And for my sister's birthday, she was here and it was her birthday. And so that was one night. The second night, we had a big party for 80 people at our property. It was all on our property.
Mm-hmm.
And it was catered, but we still did some of our own stuff too. And I tried to get away from, I knew that I had to I wasn't going to do a lot, because as soon as I start doing a lot, then I start really exhausting myself. So I said, let's hire as much as we can, And then the next day was the wedding with 130 people. And then the next day was a brunch with about 30 people. And we drove, an hour away to go to a destination that everybody wanted to see with about 20 people. And then the next day, oh God, I don't know how many people, but it was like for a whole week and a half that I was hosting people. And then I flew to North Dakota for the 4th of July and my 45th high school reunion. I was so exhausted. It was just like too much. It was that, I was probably playing an introvert at that time because it was just too much.
Yeah.
What was your question again?
You answered it well.
Yeah.
What does it take for you to become exhausted, as an extrovert?
I think it's got to be no more than 2 parties in a weekend. Maybe 1 party. No. But that was like 6 days or 7, 8 days. And then a friend flew in from Minnesota, and oh man, it was fun. It was fun. But when it was all over, I was exhausted. Yeah, it was a little too much. We realized that we just planned a little too much. And when people come from like North Dakota to California, I want to entertain them. I want them to have a fun time, because a lot of times, my relatives anyway, don't always want to come to California. And so when they come, I want them to think that it's a pretty fun place to be. And so got to do all the touristy things with them too. So, and that's on me. Maybe that is people pleasing. Now that I think of it, forget it. They're not getting one more tour. I'm not doing 1 tour next time. I'm just joking. I'll do 1 tour. But yeah, so that, I think it's just, I want to do it all. I'm that type of person that I'm an 8 on the Enneagram, and I want it all. I want to do everything and do it all. And I think that's
your sign again. What's your sign?
Sagittarian. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know enough about those.
What's your sign, Melissa?
A Pisces.
Pisces. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Drusilla, what are you, now that we're just asking, right?
I'm Cancer.
Oh,
Amanda?
Yeah.
Capricorn.
Capricorn. So your birthday's in December?
January.
January.
January. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So when my friends were here, I didn't feel like I was like people pleasing or being inauthentic. It's just I'm not used to that much social engagement because, like I was having one on one things happen, but it was a lot in a row where I'm used to more space in my day. I'm used to a lot more downtime and a lot less engagement. Because this is the first time I met this person. Like I know her from The Power of Love, but this is the first time I met her in real life. So I was really engaged in what she was saying and doing. And, I was engaged in that conversation. And then my friend from Bear Creek, when he came to visit and had dinner, I was engaged in his life and what he was doing. And, I was really on as far as not like putting myself out there to be drained. I was just using all of my capacity to be present.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm used to being able to tune out a little bit more or just not have other people in my physical presence. Mm-hmm.
That's really fascinating, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when you guys moved to New Mexico, you kind of live on the end of a road. And I mean,
Yeah,
people
you've been there, right?
Yeah, people have to make an effort to come to your place. I mean, not that it's an effort, but you have to be deciding to come to your place to come to your place. So you do probably get a bit more freedom and downtime.
A lot of freedom and downtime and open space, and all of that was on purpose, right? To tap into like who I am and to be able to distinguish what's theirs. And also, I mean, I'm a real life person, as like some things were being discussed, and I was judging a little, judge. Like I try not to do that, but I'm like, oh, like, and I have to remind myself, like, this is not a spiritual counseling client, right? Like I'm not there to do this. Like I'm just there to be present. So I in judgment is exhausting, right? Like just that's part of the thing that tires me and people in general is the process of judging and thinking someone's life is better than someone else's life, or like I wouldn't do it that way, or man, you should really change what you're doing, right? A couple times one of those people was talking about something and my mind was like, well, if you would just do this, then you wouldn't be complaining about it. And I was like, no. Like I was thinking those things, but like the filter of not saying those. So I was a little bit of filtering myself too.
Oh my gosh.
So I guess that.
In one of my spiritual readings this morning, it talked about that, like know when to keep quiet and know when to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, like it takes a lot of energy not to speak. Like
it does.
Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or in like, this is just good spiritual practice, like interacting, like I did start to suggest something and like, like one sentence and then like the person immediately shut it down. Right. Or like it, like blah, blah. I don't remember exactly what I said or exactly the reaction that I got, but it was shut down. Like, no. So I had to just like, okay, I'm just not going to like try to drive that point home or, anything like that. It's skills. It takes for me, it took mental process not to just go, come on, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good point, Amanda. I think a difference that I've seen in myself since being on the spiritual path versus the other, and how the introvert plays out. It's kind of like you said, when I'm in the environment, instead of just engaging in any type of conversation for the sake of being social, I am more apt to just listen more and
Mhm.
engage only when I have something worthy in the conversation. I listen a whole lot more than I did in the past. And so there may have been some, I still don't know if I would call it being inauthentic to want to have social conversations with people, but I'm less interested in having small talk with people about frivolous things.
Me too.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, as we all pause to contemplate our recent conversations, right? Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so then I don't get to ask anybody how the weather is anymore.
Mhm.
You
No.
introvert, you extroverts love talking about weather and that shit. Like I hate it.
So are you saying extroverts are superficial?
I don't know what y'all are doing when y'all want to talk about that shit. Why don't you tell us?
Oh, I'm just, my husband always says that you're so good at small talk. I'm just interested, honestly. Like, oh, what is the weather like in Atlanta today or Denver or Santa Fe? I'm just interested.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. When I was in college, I went home with a friend to Wisconsin. And I don't know, that was the first time that I really got that how curious I am. I'm just really curious about people. I'm just really interested in things. And I ask a lot of curious questions to people. And my friend or her mom or somebody said something, oh my God, Penny, you're so curious. And I never really thought of it that way, but I am just legitimately, authentically curious.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure why, but I am. I like to remember a lot of little tidbits that people say. And then when I bring them back up, they like are so surprised that I remembered that from what they said. So, yeah. So I don't know how that plays with what we're talking about today, but I am genuinely curious about people.
Well,
Yeah.
small talk. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it fits.
Yeah.
Well, and for those introverted people that are really super uncomfortable in social situations, like a skill is being curious, right? Like if you find yourself in a situation where you have to talk, being curious is a really good tool.
Oh gosh, my friend was going to
I
send me
like
a
it.
list of questions that she had. I went to a wedding over the weekend and she goes, I have a list of questions that I like keep handy. So when I go to these social situations, I have questions that are just on my phone and I can look at them before the event. And then I have this list of questions that I can just, if I have to get into conversations with people that I'm not comfortable with. And another thing that I do um, is I decide how many people I'm going to meet that I've never met before I go into a social situation. So I'll say, okay, I'm going to meet 5 new people tonight before I leave that event. And then I make sure that I go up and I push myself to go up and get uncomfortable and start having conversation with somebody that I've never met. And that's another little tip that I do. It's kind of fun.
Wow, that's an extrovert exercise.
Yeah.
I would
Just
call it
listening,
fun.
I wouldn't go fun either. Just listening to that, I was like, I mean, I'm pretty social, but like, I don't know if I would pressure myself with like a number of people I have to meet.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'll just sit on the sidelines and watch.
Uh-huh.
And so if I want to engage and be part of, then that's why I give myself a goal. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so here we are.
So here we are.
All
So
the
I was just, my mind went to how is this a spiritual conversation, right? And I think what I'm getting out of this is honoring ourselves, right? That's what this is all about, is honoring where we are, where you are, where your friends are in their lives. I think that is a big deal. That's the spiritual practice, is honoring ourselves, honoring the people around us without trying to change them, maybe developing some compassion for the person you see standing over in the corner, Ray,
Yeah,
Mhm.
freaking out. No.
or the person asking you 150 questions about the weather.
It's about acceptance, right?
Acceptance.
Yeah,
All about acceptance.
Melissa, it's all about acceptance.
Yeah. Everything comes back to acceptance, doesn't it?
Mhm. And honoring yourself. I like that, Amanda, because I think about when I'm so my husband Patrick is an extrovert. And so when we travel or we do anything together, he always wants to strike up conversations with someone, right? But then if there's more than one of them, then I'm going to have to engage as well. So then I have to tell him, why do you always talk to people when we go places? And it makes me exhausted, but it makes him happy, So we have these, different things like that all the time. Like he'd rather travel with other couples and I'd rather us travel alone. So that way, when I want to go be by myself, there's a better chance of that happening, you know? So yeah, it's learning to honor myself in that way too, to just say, no, I'm going to let you go do that. And I'm just going to go in the hotel room and lay down and relax a little bit or something.
Yeah,
I love knowing all this stuff about you, Drusilla. It's been like a dive in. Yeah, I love it.
Hmm.
You're the woman who likes to throw the parties, but you're also the woman who doesn't necessarily want to go on a trip with all the couples so you can have your own time. So I love that. What is it? What was that, Penny? The third extrovert introvert combo? It was like, and
you thrive in stimulating environments. Oh no, that's extrovert. You often need alone time to recharge after interacting with people.
no, the one that's both balance.
Oh, the
game.
ambiversion, ambiverts.
Oh, kind of like ambidextrous,
Yeah.
ambiverts.
ambiverts, ambiverts. Yeah, it's a balance between the two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the situation.
So you guys, we're coming towards the end of our time. Any final thoughts before Penny wraps it up for us?
No. Nothing. Got a bunch of introverts here, people. So let the extrovert take it over.
Yeah. Go extrovert. Go, go, go.
Well, the only post-it that I have today is just be you.
Yes.
Be you. Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today for our riveting conversation around introversion, extroversion, or ambiversion. Yeah, we're all doing us, and that is okay. Acceptance is the key to harmony. And that is a wrap for episode 98. So you can, this might be your first time listening to us. So you can find us on all the podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. You can see the full video of us and the beautiful Leminettes. And we appreciate you all. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you on our next amazing episode. Have a really great rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Bye.